Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this workshop session of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors. We'll call the meeting to order, and I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Lindsay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we proceed to public comment, I would like to announce that prior to this meeting and after this meeting, the board met to receive information from the township manager. With that, we will move to public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening, although I see we do have a presentation from the Central Dauphin High School chapter of the Distributive Education Clubs of America. Mr. Grice? Did I pronounce it properly? Would you please come to the podium and turn the microphone on in case it isn't, and give us your name and address, and let us know what you want to tell us. Uh-oh.
Oh, cool. Hello.
There we go. Good evening.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is William Grice. I live at 7423 Autumnwood Drive. I am a junior at Central Dauphin High School, and I'm the current president and co-founder of the DECA Club at our school. Mr. Ronald Michael, he's on the agenda, but he was unable to attend tonight, so I just want to let you guys know. So first and foremost, I would like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak before you tonight, and I'd like to start by introducing what DECA is to everybody. So DECA is an international association of high school students and college members, college-level students, who compete in business, performance events in marketing, finance, hospitality, management, and entrepreneurship. Participation in DECA activities at the regional, state, and international levels, they provide opportunities outside the classroom, and that help us become academically prepared and network-oriented and professionally responsible and experienced leaders. The competitive events and educational conferences that help us attain knowledge and skills, they help us become college and career ready. So Central Dauphin DECA, we're a group of highly motivated students who are driven to succeed. There's 9 of us. We have 4 members from the previous year and 5 members who are new this year. In the previous year, which was our the first year of the existence of our club, we had 5 seniors. So this year we also have 9 members. We hold weekly meetings throughout the competitive season, which ranges from the fall until spring. And these meetings are a collaborative effort among everybody to help members master their specific event training. So what they do is they actually choose an event in the beginning of the year, and we work on those skills throughout the entire year. This helps us improve on our content knowledge and our ability to effectively pass this on in time-restrictive role plays as well as tests. So we have made a commitment to using our knowledge and experience from the last year's international competition to improve the club's performance outcomes. And once again, we competed at the District 6 competition, just like last year. And for the second year in a row, all of our members actually moved on from that competition, their respective events, and several of our members actually got first place. And there were several hundred students at this district competition. At the state competition in February, there were over 2,000 competitors, and 6 of our members qualified for the international competition. To do that, they had to make the top 3 out of an event where if they were individuals, they had about 100 people in their event. And unfortunately, 3 of our members actually have a conflict with this year's band trip to Florida, which happens to coincide with the same day as the international competition, so only 3 are able to make it. So our club's legacy, I like to say at least, is something full of great pride. Over the past 2 years, our club is the only one in our high school to pretty much not only compete at the state level, but to place at the international level. Last year, one of our seniors and myself, we actually placed in the top 20 of our respective events, and then we were able to compete onto the second level after that. So this year we're honored and thrilled once again to represent Central Dauphin at the international competition. And the lessons that we learned and the different, I'd say, insights that we gained from being able to go to last year's international competition, which includes our chance to network not only with other students and recognize different opportunities in the business world and see absolutely an amazing amount of people speak. It's something that like we really gained like more motivation this year to try and move on, and then again make this club something where we consistently perform very well. I myself am a junior, and I'll be a senior next year, so I'll have the opportunity to help our president, and then pretty much expand our membership and see us keep going much better. So the international competition itself is actually scheduled from April 27th to the 30th, and the total cost to attend that is $2,930.93. If you break that down, $300 of that is registration for the actual event, and then the rest of it's pretty much travel and hotel, with the airfare round trip being $774, and then the hotel with the 2 rooms and the taxes included is around $1,800. So that in total is $2,900. So not included actually in this expense is the food that we'll be paying for, and then the transportation fees to and from the airport to the actual hotel itself. In total, like I said earlier, we have 3 members going, but we also have a 4th who's going to be our chaperone as we're going. So I'm here tonight seeking your help in support of our efforts. We're in a need of financial assistance to help with the cost of attending the international competition in Orlando, Florida. I forgot to mention that. It's in Orlando, Florida. And any assistance that the board is willing to provide us will be most appreciated. We'll be so thankful for. So, my speech.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Quick comment. A couple years ago, just a couple, when I was in high school, I was vice president of our DECA club and was found it to be very rewarding and a worthwhile experience. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Geis, have you spoken before the school board?
Right. So I emailed the school board, and I have the person's name right here. Oh yeah, I got a chance to actually contact the Central Dauphin School District Board, and my inquiry was redirected to Robert Horney, who's the director of business services. Yeah, business services at the school board, but I haven't heard back from him. So that's something that seems to be pending. I can tell you that last year, though, we did go to them, and the form of financial support that we did receive from them was in the form of personal donations. It was not something that was like, say like they were like cutting a check or anything. If that makes sense.
Because that would be the first stop.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
May I?
Oh, yes.
When did you say your conference was?
That was April 27th to April 30th.
And so you'll be around in June?
Afterwards, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a commercial. I don't know you, young man, but you have presented yourself very well tonight. I suspect just by virtue of being in the organization you're in, you provide leadership skills and leadership within your school. So I'm going to, as a former I'm always an educator, but as an educator, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Tomorrow, I would like you to go to whoever your counselor is, and I'd like to ask you to ask your counselor if they can give you information about RYLA, R-Y-L-A. It's Rotary Youth Leadership Program at Messiah College in June. It is the students who are juniors who will be seniors are eligible for that program. It's leadership training, not to become a leader, but to refine your existing leadership skills and to develop new ones. And so just based on what you have presented or how you've presented yourself, I believe you hold those minimum credentials that would give you a very fine opportunity to be selected to attend. If you are selected, you will not pay 1 penny. The Colonial Park Rotary Club will financially sponsor you for the entire 4 days at Messiah College.
Thank you.
That's your homework assignment.
Okay. I'll make sure to get down to that.
Yeah. Just what you wanted, homework assignment in the evening, right?
Another one, great. No,
That'll teach you to come to a board meeting.
Please provide Mr. Gottschall here with information so that we can take a look at it.
Okay.
Not exactly sure what we can or cannot do at this point, but give us the information and we will certainly review it for you.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Had you contacted the PTA or the PTO out at Central Dauphin?
I have not.
Okay, because that might be a start too, because they do have scholarships And maybe they would do some scholarship money because that would be considered like a scholarship, with going to the conference. So you probably, I don't know if they have a PTA or a PTO out there, but you should probably get in touch with them also.
I know we do, so.
Yeah, okay.
This is this is something I think a lot of the school organizations will be interested in, because it's students who are driven and trying to perfect their craft and taking the initiative, and just spending a few or 8 years on the school board. I know that there's quite a vigorous community and that are looking for projects just like this to support. And a lot of them have their own, the band has its boosters and the teams have their boosters. They do all the trips, and those costs have to be covered. So, yeah, look into the PTOs and the PTAs and any of the other affiliated organizations with the school, because this sounds like it's something that has a lot of academic value and something that school boosters would want to help out with.
Thank you.
What's your financial goals? How much money are you looking to obtain?
So the total, the actual total, like I said earlier, is $2,930.93. When I talked to the club earlier, and we were setting reasonable goals as we're trying to actually raise funds for this, we saw it reasonable to get part of this expense covered from. And I believe the number that we came up with was around $900 in that amount. I'd say going forward, though, we actually do have plans this summer to increase our fundraising efforts. And in the case that we actually do come back to you guys next year, which of course I think we will be doing, and especially afterwards to let you know how we did at the competition itself. We're looking at, because this year what took a lot of our time was to pretty much rebuild up the membership in our club, because we started with 4 members this year, and then we got that back up to the 9 that we had from last year. And we're looking at different fundraising opportunities as well over the summer and into the fall, things like food night and Sheets coupon books. So yeah, that original number, like I told you, 900 answers your question. And we're also looking to doing proper fundraising activities over the summer and the fall, since we'll have a more solidified membership base.
Each student will need to raise $2,900. How many students are planning to attend?
In total, it's 2,900.
Yeah, total.
Oh, total 29. For how many students?
3 students and a chaperone, and the chaperone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Congratulations on getting the club up and running. That's a good thing.
Thank you. It's something I feel really passionate about, and if I had other members here as well, they could say pretty much as they want about the club and how it's really something that impacted our lives. I think I want to say thank you to you guys for listening to me and for your consideration. And in the future, we do plan on also reaching out to business professionals in the area and whatnot. So we do want to make this something that's going to grow. And it's the club's, second year of existence. And we're really thankful for all the support we get and everything. So, and we're planning on, we're prepping a lot to do at this international competition. So.
Very good.
It strikes me that you and your members may also be interested in Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week. If you go to pfew.org, it's a week-long program up at Lycoming College, where students who are rising juniors or rising seniors have an opportunity to spend a week, it's a whole week-long program, with a company advisor, people who actually run businesses. And part of the program is you form your own business, develop a product, sell stock, do marketing and advertising, the whole 9, just like you were running. And there are scholarships available for it. So if you have a chance, check it out, pfew.org.
And I'll also let our club members know about
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Does the school provide you time during the day to have your meetings,
So
how does that work?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that some schools, and from my personal experience of talking to people at the last year's international competition, that some schools have, in their periods, they devote their final period to something that's like a club period. And that can be anywhere from a club, and I'm sure they do other things with that as well. Our school does not. We have a 9-period day, and any club activities that exist, they have to take after school hours. Pretty much the other clubs, they have a more organized structure. But so what we have to do pretty much every single week is, get to the grindstone and make sure that we're actually practicing and developing these skills. So it's something that's afterwards. We do take the schools, well, we don't take the schools, but like we do occupy part of the school's library to do some of our activities. They have separate rooms so we can actually get in there. We can, speak at a normal level without it being too loud. So, and yeah, that's pretty much how we do it.
So you're here tonight making a presentation after school hours. Would they allow you to make a presentation during school hours?
To come before the board.
Not this board, but let's say another organization that might be helpful in
Okay.
helping you obtain your financial goals.
Yeah, that would be something that I would need to talk to my advisor for. I'm sure though, if it's on behalf of like club needs, I could potentially get some sort of form. This is not speaking of experience. I'm pretty confident that if it's for the financial goals of a club, that is something that's supporting our interests and our interest in our career, that we would definitely have the opportunity to be able to make a presentation. There are instances where students, we have a whole range of things where students, a lot of them are like field trip oriented, where they're missing school, but I would be confident that yes, we could do that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you again for being here. Appreciate it.
Is it possible that you could give your contact information to Brad? And Brad, you could kind of get a,
Would you like me to write that down?
okay, thank you.
Don't forget your homework assignment for tomorrow morning.
Next, you'll be grading it. Do we have anybody else who would like to address the board on an item not on the agenda for this evening?
Where's Joe?
Okay, seeing nobody else wanting to address the board, let us move to the agenda. And that takes us to item 4. We have a presentation from Mrs. Urban, and we're going to talk about a message board.
Board members, it's nice to see you all. It's been a while since I've been up here, so hello.
Hello.
I also was a member of DECA my junior and senior year in high school, so. So I was tasked with looking into the cost of getting an LED message board for out in front of the township building. And I sought quotes from three different companies, and the prices are very widespread of what you can choose. And being experienced with LED message boards, because I ran one in downtown Harrisburg for 10 years, I know that the quality is important. So when I say the price range, first of all, don't be in shock. Second of all, imagine that the low-level number is a low-level sign. So we're talking about $26,000 as the minimum price, and the best sign being $97,000.
What?
So when you look at this image,
Well,
right,
We pay that
When
much
you-
at
thank you for
church?
warning us.
She just said, don't be surprised.
Don't be shocked, yeah.
so I'm here to ask how you would like me to, number one, proceed. Number two, to also make you aware that I'm aware we have a very small amount of money in the budget for communications efforts, and I would prefer that they be used for mass notification and a new website. But if your suggestion is to pursue this, I'll certainly, try to make that happen. But this is a very expensive project, and because it's over our bidding threshold, we would have to bid out the process and, correlate with the Prevailing Wage Act and those things. So it would be actually a little bit more expensive than our $27K at the minimum.
So Leanne, was it mainly because of running the electric? I mean, we got one at our church and we didn't pay that much money. That's why I'm curious.
Number one is the size. So if you're keeping the size of the sign currently and just adding the LED board, it's huge, actually, when you look at that. When you go past, I don't know how big Hoffman Ford, they have an LED board. I think it's a little bit smaller in size. But it's also based on your pixels. Just like when you look at a picture on your phone, how many pixels, that's how many lights. So because your sign's so big, if you spread those pixels out, it makes it a little bit more difficult to read. The closer you make them, the higher quality the board is, the more expensive it is. So it's based on how many lights they're putting in there, the color, if it's 4-color versus a black and white board. So I went low end, very basic, to give me bells and whistles. So went from one extreme to the other, but that's,
And I guess
I would've
for
never
it
thought.
to serve a purpose, we have to ensure that, and this is completely different from mass notification or the other things we're talking about. Number one, the people have to drive by the sign, and they have to be able to read it.
Correct.
In the amount of time that they're driving by. And that's it. We have that opportunity to transmit a message.
and unfortunately, you know this road well, that it's a hill this way and a hill this way.
Yeah.
So your visibility, the sign could be there, but your ability to read it in it's a 6 second to 8 second read time that's pretty fast when you're coming up.
Is that, did you actually time it?
That's what the standard is when you run an LED message board.
And were
So
you-
when I did it
Oh,
downtown.
that's how long it takes to read it.
Were you driving at the posted speed limit and be
Well,
aware that the public
no,
safety director is
You're
sitting in the front
saying
row?
that's the average time it takes to read an LED sign.
Yes, so when the message is up there, it remains up longer. But for a person to see a 4-lined message on an LED message board, it's a 6 to 8 second read time when in a moving.
And I know coming from towards Locust Lane, you are coming up a hill, you're going to crest the hill, and you're, well, it's pushing it. I don't know if you're going to have.
Well, and
You
I
crest the
know-
hill rather rapidly, both
And I know
directions.
that the township, it can't change but every minute.
Right,
It has
yes.
to be on
there's-
for a
yep,
minute, so.
Because of our zoning, yep.
Well, from my point of view, I think the mass notification
Yeah.
system
Okay,
and it is absolutely priority one.
okay.
And the website upgrades
Yeah.
are something I'm very anxious. I realize there's been a number of other higher priority items so far this year, but I'm really anxious to get the website upgrades. I think more people are actually going to benefit from those. Thank you. Would benefit from those projects. I mean, we can leave this there as something down the road.
Okay.
But personally, I'd rather see those other two things get up and running first.
Okay, maybe the price will come down eventually, and just for the public consumption, the mass notification is, we've been trying really hard
Yes.
to find a vendor that will allow people to sign up for notifications. So you'll get them on your phone, just community events. Hopefully, the wish list is community events, government meetings, police activity, road construction. That's our ultimate wish, and
Yes.
so that's been our
Snowstorms.
focus. It's one where you sign up, the information comes to you in a way that you're used to getting it, which is on your phone. So we're trying to focus as much resources and time to that. But we had to check this, so I appreciate you doing that.
I'll likely be back at your next workshop to present on what you're talking about right now.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Leanne, do you
I-
know the dimensions of that sign? Just
12
Big.
by 12 by 10?
That's a large sign, because the existing sign out there is significantly
12
large.
feet wide by,
12 feet, no wonder it's so expensive.
is that four? I think 4 and 2 for the top. So they gave prices for 12-foot wide and a 10-foot wide, which would significantly make our sign a little bit short. It's currently at 12.
My
feet.
question ties in with exactly what you're explaining. I'm going to make an assumption that you've done this, but nonetheless, I'm going to ask just in case we haven't. I'm assuming what you're looking at does meet the sign requirements and ordinance of Lower Paxton Township.
Nick Garrett was my first stop.
I don't want to be cited.
It would be really bad if we violated our own ordinance.
same size.
Well, there's
Those be-
different components to the ordinance, so it was wise of you to do that. So we may want to just table that idea till we get the other things up and running. But thank you
Leanne,
so much
doing
for
the
looking into it.
research.
Good job.
Good to know that that's what it would cost. However, we have some other equipment that we need to purchase as well. So with that, we are going to have a discussion on township crossing guard operations and a presentation of the all-city management proposal. We have our public safety director, Mr. Kushiba, with us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So I began looking into a different avenue to manage our crossing guard, our 3 crossing guard locations, in an effort to ease up the utilization of the police services in the absence of those folks that are operating those particular crossing areas. And in doing so, I first reached out to Swadera Township, who currently utilizes All City Management Incorporated, as well as several other agencies I'll read off to you here. But what I found is, in speaking with the Director of Public Safety over there, is in one year time frame, they, as the police department, were only required to fill in a vacancy for one shift that could not be filled by the standby guards by this company. Therefore, it freed up their police officers, especially on what we see as the call-offs on these days that these folks are not unable to get into work. A lot of times are during inclement weather. So that makes it even more difficult for the police officers to have to deal with the crossing guard times during the inclement weather when other crashes are occurring.
Excuse me, are we going to wait for a full presentation and ask questions, or are we going to ask questions as we go along, Mr. Chairman?
Why don't we let him give us the full presentation and then...
So moving on, just a few references that they had sent me locally here. They cover the school districts for the borough of Elizabethtown, Manheim Township, the city of York, the town of Clay, New York, of course, Swadera, our neighbors, which also is part of the Central Dauphin School District. Now, currently, the annual expense is shared with the school district for the crossing guards. That expense is currently $28,000 annually for all of those crossing guards, $14,000 coming from the township and $14,000 from the school district. The proposed cost for the third-party management services, or All City Management, the total would be $35,219. So therefore, our increase for the township as well as the school district would increase to $17,609.50. So overall, between the cost sharing between the two groups, that's a $7,219 annual increase for them to completely manage the crossing guard services, to manage the personnel, to process the paychecks, to deal with the call-offs, to train up any crossing guards that they have in their pool for those times when those folks call off from their everyday duties. Looking forward, I'm proposing that we, first of all, that we go ahead with All City Management and absorb the extra expense due to the increased ability of the police department to be out there doing their job and not be constricted by the crossing guard details. So looking forward, if we began this project in August, obviously we're already into the current budget year, and those expenses are already calculated. So looking forward, and if we began the progress or the proposal in August through December for this budget year, we would see a total township expense of $7,924.23. Now, what I did not do, and I did not have the ability to do at the time, is to factor in how much we would be paying them existing versus what we would be paying with that increase. So I would say that on a township expense, we would probably be in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $3,500 extra out of the budget this year if we're going to pick this particular project up and run with it by August and begin it in August. I did speak with the folks out in California. This is a California-based company. They were very helpful, and a lot of back and forth emails. One particular individual who is the local manager is Shelby Schaefer. She lives right here in Elizabethtown. She's more than willing to come out and explain in detail even more if she had to. But the important thing about her is the manager, she is local, and she's able to come out and address the problems that we may or they may see on a monthly, weekly basis. And we wouldn't necessarily be dealing with somebody from California, so to speak. That's about all I have for you. I can answer any questions on this proposal.
Mr. Chrisman, do you have a question?
Yes. And at the beginning, And that's why I stopped to ask question. What are the number of crossing guards in Swadera Township versus the number of crossing guards in Lower Paxton?
We have three, I can tell you, that three particular areas that we cover. We were at 4 crossing guards at one particular time.
Okay.
I do not know what particular number they have. I am aware of one school in particular that they're covering crossing guards for.
Okay.
Does the school district have to sign off on anything we do?
They do, and I spoke
Right.
to, apparently things are going to be changing here in the summer, but I did speak with the superintendent, Carol Johnson, 2 days ago. She checked with their financial folks, and it's an expense that they are willing to absorb to see this move over to the third party.
And you say, and they already do it with Soterra?
They do, and they're very happy with the services they receive from
Okay,
this group.
because then that's the only other, the final question is, how good is this company at getting people? Because that's ultimately what you need to do, is make sure you have a responsible body out there.
And with you saying that, I did have a conversation. My intent was to move quicker with this. However, given the time frame that I've changed it to August, so we can get through the rest of the year with the crossing guards as we have it through the township, that will give them plenty of opportunity to interview the current crossing guards that we have, and then find any additional crossing guards they may need to replace if these folks do not want to stay on board, or to find additional on-call folks for Lower Paxton Township. So this time frame between now and August is a great opportunity for them to do all their interviews and take care of all that.
And I may have a couple more questions, but you may not be able to answer them because I'd like to actually talk with the local manager because I'd like to know how many people are on their substitute list. I'd like to know how many people on a regular basis are off. Are they able, and what's the percentage of their ability to fill those vacancies on a regular basis, whereby they have, if not, they have to call out the local police. I'm sure you don't have those statistics, but that's why I'd like to talk with their local manager. Again, it's a firm from California. I know what they do. I heard your reports. I've heard other reports, not as glowing as the one that you've given about the service. Has nothing to do with the dollars and cents that you've presented tonight. And that's why I'd like to really be able to talk with the local manager.
A local manager from All City.
Elizabethtown.
Someone who is responsible that can speak for that company, because I'd like to know, again, what their pool of substitutes are, because when someone here calls off currently, you send staff out to, when we don't have now, we have a local policeman who goes to the site and safely, or make certain the children safely cross where they need to. And again, I'm coming from another background as well as sitting here. I want to make sure those children are crossed safely. If doing a subcontract or having a subcontractor come in, I want to know what their substitute list is. Because if they don't have a depth of substitutes to go to that location, the bottom line is if they don't have that, you're still going to be responsible. So I don't want to be paying more money for a service and for the same thing we're currently getting.
Understood.
Okay, and again, I know those are not the questions you can answer.
I can have her, I can work with Mr. Gutshaw and have her at a future meeting to answer those questions for you.
Adam, are we going to be required to sign an annual contract? Is
That's
that how-
correct, yes.
It's interesting they don't have Soterra on there for their references.
That was one of my questions
'Cause
on our
obviously,
packet.
those would be the ones, we'd be most interested in. That's, but we know that they do have a relationship with them.
They do, and again, the director over at Soterra spoke very highly of the process. Now, again, not to, I don't know the answer on how many crossing guards they're preparing for or utilizing on a daily basis, so that's something that I'd have to get back to you on over there, but they seemed very happy with their service.
And I think the number even in Lower Paxton, you said there were 3. That has been reduced. It used to be 4, sometimes 5.
Sometimes more.
Yes.
Adam, I just had a question. What do we pay the crossing guards now?
We are paying them a flat rate of $12 an hour. When you factor in, and this came from Alicia, When you factor in the other associated costs, it goes up to $15.06 an hour.
Because they're saying it'll be $32.61 an hour
Actually, I think it's a little
on the
higher.
paperwork that we got here.
Yes, $32.61.
Okay. Back, and you weren't here, but back in the 80s, we had a huge pool of crossing guards because a lot of the schools had them. We had what they called alternates. And then what would happen is if someone was sick and couldn't be there, then the alternate was called to go and fill in. Did we ever think of maybe doing that instead of spending more money or using an outside company, from California? Was that ever brought up about maybe having alternate crossing guards?
It was not. I know that it's been difficult to just to deal with the folks that we do have due to age and the amount of money we're paying at $12 an hour. But I can explore that if that's something the board would like me to do.
Yeah, because they did do that. And then, like I said, another thing, like Chris said, I was disappointed, and this came from All City Management, that Sweater Township wasn't on there.
I'm not quite sure why they would not
That's
list
strange.
that since they're our neighbor.
Yeah, that's strange. And another thing was, I also read in here, it said that it does not include the equipment. So if they need a new jacket, they need cones, they need whatever, that is an additional cost on top of what we're going to be paying them.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be a slight, and again, we have all that equipment for them. So that if there was a need to replace due to age and wear, it should not be that much of an expense.
So the three that we have, are they calling off a lot that you wanted to do this?
We've had, and I asked the operations lieutenant to give me some numbers, but I can give you ballpark figures, and probably on the low side, we're looking at 20 to 30 times a year that we're filling in those positions. There's some other management type issues that are currently ongoing with at least one of the crossing guards that we're working through that make it difficult too with some of the members of the public. Let's put it that way.
And I just want to follow up Robin, are you finished? I just want to do a follow-up what you're saying.
Yeah.
Adam, I'm going to guess, but I don't like to create a theory that I may be wrong on. The three that we currently have, are they aging? And with that, I'm trying to stay away from age discrimination.
Sure.
But the point I'm trying to make is, if you're having absenteeism, is it because our three people are aging? And I'm going to couple that with, are we having difficulty recruiting people to replace them, and or are we having difficulty finding substitutes to go for them so our police department does not need to go?
Well, first part of that is as far as their age, I don't believe that's a factor.
Okay, good.
I do believe they have some other family demands on them.
Okay.
And the other issue is, and again, during inclement weather, at least one of them that I'm thinking of has difficulty making it in because she's just not comfortable driving in inclement weather. So that makes it difficult as well.
Okay.
As far as the recruiting, and to your point, and back to Miss Lindsay, I have not taken that direction. We can surely take the next couple months and take a look at that and put out a interest letter on the website and see if there's anyone interested in doing that. That's all a direction that we can go. I just, in looking at this particular group and speaking with Sweater Township and seeing the neighbors down in Elizabethtown not having any issues with them, I agree it's a little bit of an increase in an expense. However, as your public safety director, my backside to this is that it frees up the officers to get out.
And I understand freeing up the officers. I don't even mind the expense. My concern is that we have someone there to safely get children across the street. I want to make sure that we have someone there. I understand, outsourcing. I also enjoy the comfort of knowing that our locals are here regularly rather than to, whoever. And if somebody's out, do they have to call E-Town to get that person? And that person then calls the substitute, and then how much time does that involve? And then we have children crossing the street without any assistance until, I can't find someone, so then I'll call the LP, which you guys are the backups then. And how much time has passed for all of that logistics to go into place? That's one of my biggest concerns.
Sure, and in speaking with Ms. Schaefer, that was part of their buildup, which I thought was a better opportunity for them to get more folks and put a little depth into their program for our area. They indicated to me they would have to do the interviews and post the job openings and interview those folks so that they could build their on-call list here.
Okay.
Adam, do you anticipate we're going to remain at 3 guards?
Yes, there's absolutely, we could possibly drop to, and I would ask the traffic unit to do a little more of a study, but I think we could probably drop to 2 guards. There's one particular school where there's just one crosswalk, so to speak, an area that we're dealing with. The 2 dangerous areas that we're really looking at is
Down on South Side.
I'm sorry?
Lingelstown and South Side.
Lingelstown and South Side, exactly, because of the traffic, so.
Makes sense.
I just cannot believe the difference in the hourly wage.
I agree, and apparently their fees to manage those type of individuals from afar, and probably insurance and those sort of things, liability insurance, those sort of things are probably what drives that cost.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
If
I will
there-
have, I'll work with Mr. Gutshaw, and at a meeting in the future, I'll have Ms. Schaefer come and answer any additional questions you may have.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you,
you.
Adam.
Well, you might as well stay there. And I see both you and Mr. Gottschall are going to handle this next one, so it must be a heavy lift.
It is a heavy lift.
Yes. We are going to discuss, we're going to be doing a bond, we're going to be doing a bond issue later this year, and the police department is in need of a radio system, and that is an item that really is going to have to be included in that bond issue, but if you want to give us details.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, following up on the board's last meeting in which Mr. Wenger was here to give a proposal on that bond issuance, a potential bond issuance, which included items such as the police radios, basically in a presentation for the first time in a public way. The board had asked that we provide you with more information relative to those items, and so I had asked the director to join us tonight to discuss, to really hone in on the history of the police radio system as it stands, and a background as to why we are here discussing it tonight. Which is another one of our favorite things, federal mandate. And so we have tonight a few numbers. The director did retrieve other financing options, which we can certainly provide tonight as well. But with that brief introduction, I'll turn it over to the director to go over the particulars.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of what is occurring here, on February 22nd, 2012, President Obama signed a public law 11296, which in part required the FCC to virtually begin auctioning off T-band space on the radio waves. The T-band, commonly referred to by many as the television band. So the band where there's a large number of emergency services that communicate within the radio frequencies on that band. So my understanding in reading into the act is requiring all the emergency communications to be taken off of that band and put onto a completely separate band to free up bandwidth, not only for the television network, but also to give the emergency services their own band where they would not be sharing the network, so to speak, with others. So the FCC had certain requirements when that law came about, and it required within 9 years of the act, so with it February 22nd of 2021, that the FCC had to take certain steps to begin auctioning off that band and moving emergency communications off of that band. There's a time window, and there's a lot of discussion still that's a very cloudy area as to auctioning off the band and where that money will go. Will it help to fund the emergency services network that we're now being forced to go onto? That's undecided yet, of course. But the long and short of it is, as early as February of 2021, we will be forced off of the current band that we're on. With that said, and one other thing that falls into place with that, we have currently use Motorola 5000 series radios, and Motorola has stopped manufacturing the 5000 series radios. They will not manufacture them anymore, and they're not going to manufacture the parts for them. So all the radios that we currently have deployed in the police department, and I think you're going to probably see issues with the other emergency services as well, but the current ones in the police department, once they break, we won't be able to fix them. So that moves us forward into what we have to do and prepare for by 2021. Now, again, that being a gray area, maybe we luck out and it goes another year or two and we don't necessarily have to move for 2022, 2023. But again, the core issue, along with having to move off of that band, is the availability of the Motorola radios. So where does that bring us today, and what's happening with the agencies around us? Where that brings us today is most of the agencies, there are some agencies, and I'll go over them here with you in a second, in Dauphin County that have looked into the 8000 series radios. The 8000 series radios is an all-band radio. What that means is no matter what band we get pushed to, whether it's a 700 band or whether it's the UH up into 800 megahertz band, we'll be able to dial into that system with the radios in the 8000 series. Now, those radios are very, very expensive. I'll give you the numbers on just the portables alone that the officers are going to have to carry on their person. And again, with technology, that's probably what's driving a lot of this expense. But to give you an idea of some of the transitions that are already occurring and what those numbers are and how they're doing it, I spoke with the partners down in Harrisburg City. They chose the Motorola 8000 multi-band radios. And again, the reason for that is being able to communicate or choose any frequency. Even if we go into another county, it's a very large event, or even PSP with our partners, we can dial into their band and program it in and talk with PSP as well. So the radios, the 60 mobile radios in Harrisburg City and the 120 portable radios with extra batteries. Now there's other accessories in there that they're required to, the mics, the earpieces, those sort of things. Harrisburg City spent $1.2 million from their general fund for this project. So the Capitol PD, and speaking with Harrisburg City, Capitol PD just began their transition for their mobile radios only. I don't know what those costs are at that particular point. Also, I reached out to Derry Township to see what they were doing and how they were incorporating the plan and rolling out these very expensive radios. They requested funding 4 to 5 years ago, and speaking to the lieutenant over there, for 8 radios a year, and they were going to phase these radios in. There were some funding issues apparently within Derry Township. Those numbers dropped to at 1.4 portables a year. So just for their portables alone, they're at about a 50% rate where they need to be to replace by 2021. They have not even begun their mobile transitions yet. And just to give you an idea where this comes from and what brought me to you and kind of got me up to speed on this is being a member of the Dauphin County Chiefs. I started hearing grumblings of this in probably late 2018, so I started driving some communication at the meetings. And one of the meetings had brought me up to speed on the FCC mandate, which brings me here today. So we weren't prepared, or I wasn't prepared in the 2019 budget to give you any ideas, but unfortunately I'm here in front of you now to give you some grim numbers and issues with the radio system itself. So overall, depending on just a few factors, and anywhere from $521,000 to $526,000 for the police department here to get the items that they need, which would include 65 portable radios. That's a couple of extra portable radios. To give you an idea, they're just shy of $6,000 a radio. They're GPS enabled. There's a lot of things that we can do with these radios. But $6,000 just for a portable radio that the officer would wear on his or her belt. Mobile radios are close to $5,000, and again, chargers, microphones, and all those other pieces of equipment that go with them that make them have their ability to do their job reaches that number that I had given you. Now, outside the bond issue that Mr. Gutschall and I spoke about, another potential way of funding this project, which is an option, and I think it requires a little more thought because I'm large on having some reserves, and you never know what's going to happen in a budget year. But if we push that out in a lease purchase agreement with Motorola, they have very competitive rates. Those rates for 3-year would be 2.24%, 5 would be at 2.38, and the option would for 7 years would be 2.5%. Now, looking at the 7-year option, because I believe that keeps our increase in your police budget, my police budget, that would push my police budget up $82,000 and some change every year for 7 years just for the radio funding. So that's one option. Option 2 of that 5-year program would push it another $111,000, almost $112,000 a year. If you went with the 3-year option, you'd be close to $182,000 a year for 3 years. So there's options there that we can definitely look into. The neatest option that I would say with the lease purchase under the 7-year, or any one of those really, but again, if we were to do it, I would think the 7-year would be more appropriate, is once we place the order and sign with them, our first payment wouldn't be due until 1 year after we began our radio project with them. So we would be into the 2019 budget preparation or 2020 budget preparations and be able to forecast that out by then.
Adam, you said once they run out of parts, they can't be repaired. So like, how much do you think they have back for the radio parts? I mean, could it be like 2 months, 3 months, Motorola? Because once our radios start going and we can't fix them, then
We're going to have problems.
we're going to have problems.
And I can give you the case. We were surprised. There was one radio, my particular vehicle when I came on board didn't have a police radio in it. We found a radio that had been damaged, and they were able to basically scrounge parts at KNC Communications and fix that radio for about $800. So it would be a case-by-case basis, and it would be just out of luck on whether or not we would have enough, enough parts to take care of that.
Are you finished, Robin?
I just had one more.
Oh.
I know that you had asked, it was when we were looking at the bond, you had asked 600,000. So this is a little bit cheaper, between 5 and 526.
That's correct. When we tightened up the numbers a little bit and I had our staff downstairs look at that, we were able to bring that number down
Okay.
from that
Okay,
600.
yeah, I'm done, Gary.
Okay. The fact is, it's a mandate. We must implement it by 2021. So on that basis, and maybe you're not there yet, Adam, because you're just sharing the information with us, I'm going to go with the highest number, the 526. Is it, and again, I'm not asking you for a recommendation tonight, but is it better from your perspective and to meet the mandate that we do it all at one time, we spend the 526, or we choose the phase-in over a 2 or 3 year period? My only thought and question, and maybe you've already explored this, if we wait, again, or even wait till 2021 and do it all at one time. So I think we have another option. Do we do it right now, or do we, and buy everything? Do we wait closer to 2021 and buy it all then? In the meantime, there may be something that would come out that would extend the time, because you've said that as well. It could very well be beyond 2021. I know you're also faced with equipment that is aged, for which you cannot repair. So that in itself for me is a major variable. You want to throw that one aside. I'm guessing if I were sitting doing the analysis. So coming back, if that's true, I don't know that if it is, but if you can hold the equipment longer so that we would phase in later and still purchase it, there may be an extension, again, which will allow us to go even further. Again, using the 526. So do we want to buy them all at one time? Do we want to buy them and phase them in over a 2 or 3 year, because you gave us some options with lease purchase? Then that raises another question for me, and again, maybe you thought of this. In that arrangement, what happens, because I'm sure that Motorola is continually updating its technology, and over a 2 or 3 year period, will we get this year's model, and next year we get a different model, and the following year we get a different model, and then later, 5 years from now, then we have to start repair. We're repairing 3 different models, looking for parts and that sort of thing. As I'm thinking about airplanes that have 737 technology that has to be redone for, will that same, I know it's a possibility, but that could occur with getting different models of equipment. I know that's a lot to throw you, but those are the thoughts that I'm generating as you're doing the presentation. Sorry to throw all that at you.
Not a problem, sir. I think based on our time frame, and there's many factors we have to look at, obviously.
Yes.
I don't know whether, if we were going to phase this project in, what kind of interest rates we would be faced with during those timeframes. I'm sure there would be a fluctuation in that based on the economy. I personally believe a phase-in is the best way to do it.
Oh.
And I say that because it gives us an idea. First, we start training as we phase into those radios. Those radios that we phase in, we're then able to hold our mobiles and our portables back for the parts in case something else breaks until we get into the next phase. Ideally, I believe that's the best way when you're accomplishing a project like this. But the question lies with only a 2-year, maybe at a max 4-year phase in. Will it make a difference? And to address your concerns, I don't know, 4 years from now with technology, like you said, we may be looking at 3 different type of radios. Then there's a cross-training issue, and
Yes.
there's different issues as far as I'm concerned with that. So it's kind of a balancing act, if you would, on what would be the best option. If I had the time, if we all had the time to do it properly, I think the phase-in would work best. But based on the fact that we're probably only looking for a 2 to 4 year max, I just question on whether or not that phase-in, based on the rates we have today, is the way to go. Normally, I would say yes, that's the way to do it. But
And your response, I'm shocked by your response, because I thought your response would have been, it's mandated, we need to get them, so let's get them now all at one time, so they're all the same, all the in-service training. When we do repair, it's all the same unit. That's what I thought you were going to say. But
Are you
so
trying
you
not
at
to
this-
give us sticker shock? Is that?
Yeah.
Well, quite frankly, if they had not stopped production of the 5000 series radios, I would not come to you until the very last minute asking you for that one-time expense, because the radios are working fine for us. We're not having any issues with the particular radios, other than the fact that they're not going to be manufacturing those radios anymore. And the other thing that when we talk about the prices, just to educate you a little bit on, Dauphin County, with their radio system, their towers, they set the vendor. We can't go outside, so they chose KNC Communications, and basically we can't go outside of KNC Communications with other vendors because they won't allow those radios on their network. So we're kind of stuck with one particular vendor, which KNC Communications has been around a long time. They've done a lot of work both for the state and for the agencies here in Dauphin County. So I believe they're not taking advantage of us as much as a single vendor could. I think they're helping us out with, in particular, with the rates that we're seeing.
Can I ask? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lou.
Well, here, you mentioned the new radios would give us the flexibility to be in multiple locations on the band. The Motorola radios that we have now, did they have that capacity? Because my concern is interoperability of the system. And as you mentioned, if a major event were to occur and we needed to be able to communicate with other agencies, do the radios we have now allow us to do that?
There's only you can do it, but it's called a patch.
There, or if you have an interops frequency, PSP has an interops with Dauphin County, for instance. So if a Dauphin County Police Department's involved in a pursuit or any large incident, they can have the PSP folks switch to the interop and they share that. If the agency doesn't have interop, they do what's called a patch, and they patch that frequency into that police department's radio system. And I've experienced that patch work before, and it is a nightmare on communication. So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, the current radios, no, other than the interop and some of the, within Dauphin County, we have the ability to talk to one another. But if we go outside this county, and especially with PSP, without that interop channel, without that patch, there's some serious issues there.
I recall in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks, interoperability was a very big discussion among counties all over the country because it didn't work well, and it hampered efforts. And you know, we are under, as you pointed, a federal mandate here, but I have a concern as to whether or not the current radios that we have would serve us well in the event of certain major incidents. And a phase-in over a 3 or 4 year period is going to further, I would think, complicate that, because you'd have some folks you can communicate with, some folks you can't communicate with. That's why I agree with Gary. I'm a little surprised that the recommendation wouldn't be, let's just replace everything all at one time so we're all on the same page from the very beginning, because we're going to have to do it anyhow.
And I say that understanding that the large percentage, and there's always an outlier, the large percentage of our work is within Dauphin County. So we have the ability to talk to one another in Dauphin. When we move outside that realm, or even within Dauphin County, within the township, there are some issues with being able to communicate, but for the most part, we're able to, without question, we're able to service this township and Dauphin County with the radio system we have. So that's why I like to phase it in, only because, again, it's a new radio system. We're going to have to, especially the 8000 series radios, it's new technology, but based on our time frame, I could go either way.
Okay, Adam, but what you said about phasing in, which of the phase-in schedules would you recommend? I mean, maybe we're not to the place for your recommendation because we're looking at all the options, but as of right now, without further investigation, which option of phase-in would you choose?
I would phase in our mobile radios first, and that would allow us to learn the technology and how to move through the different portions of the radio and communicate and change bands, that sort of thing. And then in next year's step, I would phase in all the portable radios at that point.
So you would do a 2-year phase-in, okay?
So we would
and strike the 3-year that you had described earlier.
We would be prepared at 2 years for that 2021 timeframe.
So we'd be mandated by the 2020.
Correct.
How many mobiles do we have, Adam? I know you said 65 portables.
5 portables, and I believe the expense was for 30. Let me
30
check my
mobiles.
numbers. Mobiles.
Because 65 portable radios times 6,000, that's $390,000. So the bulk of the rest, I guess, is,
Well, 30 at 5,000 is 150,000.
30 mobiles.
Yeah, 30 mobiles, okay.
30 mobiles, 65 portables, some single chargers, some bank chargers, microphones.
I'm sorry for my ignorance, but what's the difference between portable and mobile?
Portable radio is something that the officer is able to wear on their belt. So if they get into different scenarios away from their car, they have the ability to talk to someone.
And what's mobile?
The mobile is
In the car.
for the transmissions on the radio while you're sitting in the car.
In a car, okay.
Those radios, that's the other thing with mobiles versus portables. The wattage on a mobile radio is much greater, so you're able to get out at a greater distance and reach.
And so I was surprised. So this has nothing to do with PA StarNet and the statewide radio system, which was supposed to give us interagency communication. I really thought before I read this and heard the details that this is purely FCC.
It's clearly an FCC mandate with the backside of it with Motorola understanding that mandate, bringing their technology up, and just to ensure that they have buy-in with their new technology, they cancel the production of
And-
old radios.
So right now in Lower Paxton, if we were to have a major event, you can talk to state police.
We can with a Dauphin County interop. The Dauphin
Right.
County Communications has the ability to interrupt that, and we've done it multiple times. So it's possible to do it now.
It's
You
possible
said
and
it's
you
a
do do
nightmare.
it.
Yeah, and we do it.
You said it's a nightmare?
The interop's great. Now, the patch is a problem. So if we go into, let's say we have a pursuit that moves into Cumberland County, or we don't have their interop channel, or down into Adams County,
Okay.
the patch is a problem.
Right, you have to,
All right, and I think what the chairman was getting at, and we, as we're sitting here, we just wanted to know, no matter how we do this, that you're confident that, you know, right now, if something major happens, you can communicate with state police in Lower Paxton.
Without question, yes.
But the new system will make it more efficient.
Yeah, without a doubt. We'll be able to change the knob or up or down on the radio, and we'll be able to move over it to their frequency without question.
Adam, how's this going to affect fire communication?
They're going to be forced to do the same thing.
So we're going to be expecting a presentation in the future to convert all the fire radios.
I believe so. I believe at some point there's going to be a very detailed discussion from at least those 3 fire companies in your township and across the board. And we talk about just the funding issues overall with the volunteers. It's yet another mandate that puts a huge financial constraint not only on the township but also the volunteer fire companies as a whole.
It would be good for us to start getting a handle on what those potential costs might be as well. So if you do a 2-year phase-in, it really comes down to, we don't have a choice but to do this because of the federal mandate. Do we go with bond financing or do we do a lease purchase? That sort of is really what the decision is.
Well, pardon me if I may, members of the board. I think we're maybe confusing the issue, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Director. When we're talking about phase-in, a phase-in situation where we're piecemealing the purchase is assuming a cash payment, right? Is assuming a general fund coverage of the payments.
That's correct.
Right. So if we were to redo the entire system, any one of those options that you laid out in your presentation in terms of leasing would get us an immediate redo of our whole system at one shot.
That's correct, with a delayed payment of 1 year. So, so the difference, and if I may, between the bond and the leasing is the bond, I guess, Mr. Gutschall's over 25 years, I think you had told me.
Yes, I asked Mr. Wenger to provide, so the original proposal that the board had seen was for 25 years. They are able to amortize it in a different way to provide financing through the bond on whatever term we want. So I did ask Mr. Wenger to provide information on 10-year amortization as well as a 7-year to compare that to the 7-year lease.
What is the expected lifespan of the new radio system? Is it 25 years?
No.
I'd say if we're going to bond something out of, we don't want to be 20 years from now paying for something that has
it's obsolete.
gone away.
That was a conversation I had with Mr. Gutschall as well. I don't know, when we push radios out that far, you're going to be replacing them before they're even paid for.
Yeah. And obviously
Is this likely a 7 to 10 year life? What, do we have any idea what the projected lifespan would be?
I think you're probably looking, what technology, the way it's changing today, you're probably looking at a 10-year lifespan, I would say would be.
I think that's something obviously you guys will need to sit down and review and come back with a proposal
With
to
the
us.
numbers.
Not only your final recommendation after having tonight's discussion, come back with a formal recommendation for implementation along with the financial plan that you would recommend.
Okay.
Adam,
I'm
you
sorry,
may not
Mr.
know
Chairman, I
this.
didn't mean to try to.
No, that would be exactly where I was going, is we need to look at the various options, but it would strike me that a 25-year payback should not be one of those options. Even though if you pay back over 10 years, you have to pay back more per year, but
And for
10
something
years
that-
from now, if a new system has to be purchased, we don't still want to be paying for an old system.
Exactly.
And
Or
I think-
whoever's here 10 years from now doesn't have to.
I think it's a,
Oh, Gary said he'll be here.
I think it's a good opportunity to just give you an idea of where the communication system's going, look at the expense that it's going to take. And I agree that we probably need to do a little more homework with the fire department as well and give you a little tighter budget as far as they're concerned as well. And again, just so you understand, my only reasoning for phasing in over even a 2-year span is just to get comfortable with the technology.
And you're the one who has to implement this. You're the one who has to do the in-servicing with your staff, and your staff have to feel comfortable using the equipment. I understand why you would want to do them all at one time.
That, however, is, I think, sort of a separate issue from financing.
Exactly.
I mean, you can
exactly.
phase in over 2 years, 3 years, or whatever you find to be practical, but we have to have a financing plan from day one.
Right.
And if we're going to do bonding, we need to determine that by this summer, because we'll want to include this in the bond issue that we're going to be doing anyhow, so that we can keep borrowing costs to a minimum.
Exactly.
Adam, you may not know this answer, but we have a lot of residents at home that sit and monitor police and fire frequencies, kind of to keep abreast of what's going on. Will changing the frequencies or the radios that were in use have any effect on their equipment?
It sure will. Yeah, they're,
Yeah.
Sure.
well, if they can hear, if they're not encrypted bands, those scanner prices move upwards of $800 to $1,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you're interested in listening at home, it's going to be a little more expensive once we switch to these bands.
Okay.
Wow.
Any other
I was
board
gonna say, are we done with the
questions?
police radios? I have another question for him, but I don't want to, if we're not done with
Are
the
we done
police
with talking about police rates?
I just want to say thank you for sharing all this information so we have an opportunity to digest it and have an open discussion with you, and then give you some direction with what we want you to do to come back with the financial plan and also the program plan as well.
And
So
I
thank you, Adam.
apologize. You're welcome, and I apologize to all of you. I wish I would have been able to forecast this a little bit better, but now
No,
that I'm
that's-
getting my feet completely dry and on dry ground, I'm able to start looking at some of these long-term projects. And
But an
this-
apology is
quickly.
not necessarily, you're sharing the information, we're having an open discussion. There are things that we may have not thought of that you did. By the same token, we may have thought something that you thought, oh, we need to take that under advisement. As we get even down to the financials, with you and Brad to sit down and go through that again with a recommendation coming back, again, with our input as we have given to you. So thank you, both of you.
Yep.
Thank
Well-
you.
Well, that's why we have workshops.
That's right.
Because
That's why they're called.
You give us information, we ask questions, you get more information. We'll probably have several workshop sessions on this before we get to where we want to be, but, that's the process. And I think it's good that we play it all out in a public forum as well.
And I have a little homework to do, obviously, right?
Well,
Adam, I
homework
just-
is being handed out a lot tonight.
I see that, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I
Robin,
just
you
had
had
a
another?
question. With the fire radios, approximately how many do you think each of the fire companies have?
Thinking off the top of my head, township-owned apparatus, other apparatus associated with that, we're probably looking at the same number, very close to the same number of mobile radios, probably in the 25 to 30 range.
Okay.
I don't believe they issue portable radios per firefighter.
Okay.
So that would be a difficult number for me to guesstimate, but I think
So
you're
you're
in the
looking
right.
at about 5,000 for all three fire companies? Because you said 30 mobile units was 5,000.
5,000 apiece.
Oh, that's right, 5,000
Piece,
apiece,
yes.
150, I'm sorry,
Piece.
yeah. Yeah, 150,000, okay.
And I'll be able to get, once I get with the chiefs, I'll be able to give you a tighter number on the
Okay.
portable radios as well.
Okay, thank you.
As a facetious comment ending, I gave the young man this evening a homework assignment. So therefore, Brad, Adam, you have a homework assignment also.
Thank you, sir. I have one other addition on the original discussion we had, all city management. My lieutenant just got back to me with the numbers. In 2018, 2017, 2018 school year, or 2018, 2019 school year, we were called upon 107 times to fill those
Oh, wow.
crossing guard
Three
posts.
crossing guards, really?
Yes,
What was the count again?
107 times. So,
Not good.
And we have, as of now, we have no alternates, am I right?
do not.
Nobody to fill in.
Oh,
Okay.
so we do not have a bank of substitutes.
We do not, no.
Okay.
Okay, I guess my question is why?
An answer that I'll hope to find for
I
you.
couldn't run a school district and have teachers out and not have substitutes.
It's it probably has to do with just culture, society, fewer people volunteer, and
Well, I don't know, and this is not when you've been here, but way back. I know in the past 6 years, I've never seen an ad, for crossing guards. So, that if we do decide to stay, it might be something we might want to do, because there might be some retired people out there. Like I said, back in the 80s, they did have alternates.
They don't do ads anymore. It's all electronic.
But
We'll
those
use-
people that are going to be applying are going to be
We'll use new platforms to go out and find the personnel we need.
word of mouth.
You can put on that $97,000 digital board.
The 97, there will not be a $97,000 digital board. We could hire a lot of crossing guards for $97,000.
Without question.
No.
We can get you one more additional police officer to cover those 107 times in a year.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with that, we go to ought to know, and apparently there's nothing we ought to know unless something has cropped up here. We have some improvement guarantees, which were updated today. So we have Windchase Phase Phase 2 is a new improvement guarantee, and Laurel Ridge Extension a release. Both are pretty boilerplate, so.
Yeah, other than, Mr. Gutschall, is there anything special on the extension? Why there's it's a release of
It's
the
release,
extension?
correct.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Correct, yep.
No, they're straightforward. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 2 improvement guarantees as presented and recommended by Mr. Gutschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And before we adjourn, when's the Easter egg hunt? That's this weekend? Saturday at 1 o'clock?
Brightville Park.
Brightville Park.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got to get our parks right here. Brightville Park, 1 o'clock, Easter egg hunt. Hopefully a lot of folks will come out and be part of that.
The weather's supposed to be nice, so that'll be good.
All right, good weather. Anything else from any members of the board or the manager?
Brightville Park.
Our next board meeting will be next Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. Seeing nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Thank you, everyone.
Still have about 4,000 acres.